Please welcome His Excellency Hassan Al-Thawadi, Chairman of the 2022 FIFA World Cup Qatar, and Ian Bremmer, President of the Eurasia Group and G0 Media and Concordia Leadership Council member. Ian?
Thank you so much. I hope everyone can hear me. Great to be with you as well as with my friend Hassan. We've only got 20 minutes, so I'm just getting rid of the titles. I'm just calling him Hassan. Hassan, you call me whatever the hell you want. It's perfectly fine.
It's the only way to communicate.
So here we are in this massive global pandemic, which is, it's so fragmenting. It's keeping people locked up by themselves. And you are in charge of the single most global event that is held in the world. So it's kind of the opposite of what we've been experiencing in the past 6 months. How daunting is that for you? How do you and how are we going to think about having the most global event in the world in what will still be a pandemic plus environment?
Well, I think you said it, yourself. It's daunting. There's no doubts about it that I don't think anybody was prepared for this global pandemic and its impact. But I have to say, both as a nation and as an organization in charge of the World Cup, I'm very proud of the way we've handled it. I'll just very briefly kind of touch base on the approach that the nation took, and then the page. We took a page out of the game plan that the country took as well in relation to addressing the pandemic. So, of course, first and foremost, I think, as every nation focused on, we focused on the health and well-being of everybody in the state of Qatar, right? That was the first very important step. So the nation, imposed a very aggressive testing procedure as well as a very aggressive contact and tracing procedure to try to limit the spread of COVID. For people who were COVID positive, they were taken to medical facilities and medical health care was provided to them, as well as ensuring that their wages were paid and so on. As I said, we tried to limit the spread and limit the impact of COVID within the country. And, I think also the nation, took another step in trying to fulfill its role as part of the, global community. The state of Qatar, through Qatar Airways, worked diligently to try to repatriate over 2 million people throughout the world back to their countries. About 250,000 tons of medical equipment were transported through cargo, to require and shipped to nations that were needed. And these are the steps that the nation took. And I have to say, in addition to that, there was a stimulus package of about, I'd say, around $20 billion as well that was pumped into the economy, to the local economy as well, to ensure that the economy, shore it up during this period of time, and ensure that to kind of comply with a modicum of normalcy, not go through a complete shutdown, but to go through a modicum of normalcy. Now, in relation to the World Cup, of course, there's the immediate actions that we took as well. As I said, we took a page out of the government's playbook. First and foremost, we isolated all at-risk critical workers, with underlying conditions. We've taken them out, people with underlying conditions, old age, and so on. We took them out of the workforce, put them within safe facilities for themselves. Then we started implementing rigorous health and safety standards on our sites, within our offices, and so on, informing people about social distancing and providing a rigorous sanitization policy and procedure, both within the sites and outside the sites. But also, as we were doing that, we also, were very diligent towards ensuring continuing our work in a healthy and safe environment. And the reason we wanted to continue our work, there's a very important element to that. One of the factors I think that people didn't factor in early on when the lockdown started getting implemented was the impact this had on the mental health and emotional health of individuals. And so, we recognized that early on, and that's why we wanted to maintain a modicum of normalcy in terms of work continuing, progress continuing, albeit at a slower pace. And we were very lucky to be able to work at a slower pace, because about 85% of our work in terms of infrastructure and development and so on had already been done, been finished and completed. So we had the luxury of working at a slower pace, but nevertheless continuing. And that was something that we kind of were very proud of. But then this takes us now to, so these were the immediate steps that we took in relation to addressing COVID immediately. There's the other element, though, that I think you alluded to, which is during the tournament. How's the tournament going to be held? I have to say, in an ironic way, we're blessed that COVID came 2 years before 2022. So we have,
Olympics.
ahead of us,
no choice in the matter. Yeah.
Olympics. It got delayed. It got pushed back to 2021. Now, whether the Olympics will be held or not, I think they're discussing this. But we're keeping a close eye and in discussions to kind of learn from them. There's the Euros 2021. There's the Common Ball. All these tournaments were supposed to be held in 2020. They got pushed back to 2021. We're in discussions with the organizers, trying to learn from them. But in the meantime, also we're learning from other sporting events that are being held. The NBA, I think today is probably one of the best sports held tournaments out there that has shown efficiency in terms of both the bubble to bubble model and how to continue in a COVID, at least in the immediate COVID world, and we're trying to learn lessons from them. The European Confederation held their Champions League a few months ago. Now the leagues are starting, and we're learning from all of these. And I think we have the luxury in the next 2 years to learn how to host the world in 2022. Now, of course, one important factor to keep in mind is, of course, the fact that we've always said this is an accessible tournament. And we want to make sure that it's accessible and affordable to the world, because I'm confident that we're going to be looking at the tail end of COVID by the end of 2022.
Vaccines will be available by this point, and the testing regime will be very different. So are you looking at it in 2022 as actually, it's not that we need to make it a more virtual experience per se. The world is going to be watching it. The world is going to be streaming it. But we expect roughly the same numbers of people will be able to attend in 2022 by the time. Is that your presumption? Is that what you're working on?
It's one of the assumptions. I mean, look, in a COVID world, you can never go with one assumption, right? You have to have several assumptions, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty over there, and it'd be very presumptuous on anybody to say this is this is the target. But there's no doubts that we're working on being an accessible World Cup. In order for it to be an accessible World Cup, and we're working on attracting the same numbers that we had pre-COVID, we're working and we're hopeful and we're aiming to try to achieve that. Of course, there's a lot of other assumptions and a lot of other elements and factors that go in between now and 2022. One important factor is the economic condition of the world, the global economy. That is a very important factor that we have to keep an eye on. And we have to create a balance between ensuring that it is an affordable tournament, while at the same time ensuring that it is also, let's say the price variables or the price it's at such a balancing point where it's affordable for the fans, but at the same time it allows for the service providers, whether it's airlines, whether it's hotels, and so on, to function as well at a sustainable model. So there's that balance. Now, of course, you're much smarter than me. There's no doubts about it, Ian. If you can predict what the world's going to be like, in terms of, in the next 2 years with a level of certainty, it'd be great. But I think we need, from my side, we're looking at, different assumptions, right? And we're working at different models. And we're in discussions, with a lot of different people in trying to predict what's happening, keep a close eye on what's going on, learn from other tournaments, learn, for example, from, what the Euros are going to be like. But the one thing I want to say is, I'm confident about one thing. We're looking at it going to be at the tail end of 2022. We're going to make it an accessible tournament. We're going to work on bringing people towards celebrating what I honestly believe will be truly the first global event at the tail end of the pandemic. COVID has become a unifier, if you will, that kind of, to a large extent, it unified humanity in terms of its impact. And we've always said that sports and the World Cup is really a platform to bring people together. It's one of the very unique opportunities to bring people together. And at the end of COVID, I think today more than anywhere else, we need to harness and utilize as many of these opportunities and as many of these platforms, and in particular, this grand global platform, in really bringing people together and celebrating, humanity. And I think, we're working very hard towards doing that.
Obviously, the pandemic does not respect borders. It doesn't care who you are. But I mean, frankly, sports hasn't respected borders either, in a much more positive way. And, when I think about how fragmented the geopolitics are in the world today, and most particularly in your own region, in your own backyard, sports is one of the very few things that we've actually seen antagonists playing together, engaged together. I mean, as you see it right now, I mean, your plan is that Israelis, Saudis, Emiratis, Iranians will all be attending in person this Cup.
Absolutely. Look, from day one, we always said that, this tournament is an opportunity to bring people together and bridging cultural gaps and bridging differences. And we've always strived in the state of Qatar, the state generally, right? The state of Qatar always believed in resolving conflict through dialogue and utilizing as many platforms as possible to bringing people together and bridging cultural gaps and bridging differences, and in a way that harnesses and kind of utilizes the spark of common humanity. And celebrating common humanity, and there's nothing, as you said, as powerful as sports in terms of doing that. Now, over the years, yes, my country is currently under an illegal, unjust blockade, but I'm very proud to say that through as a testimony to the resourcefulness and the resources within and the resolve of the nation, we've been able to overcome the blockade. But we've always looked at these sporting opportunities as an opportunity to bring people together on a human-to-human level, on an individual level. Regardless of political differences, regardless of political beliefs or ideologies or any of the other ideologies, sporting opportunities are opportunities to bring the average individual together. We've experienced it in Russia in 2018. We've experienced it in South Africa. Just recently, last year, we hosted the Arabian Gulf Cup, which is our regional soccer tournament. And countries from the blockading nations, including fans from blockading nations, attended. And the final was won by Bahrain, one of the blockading nations. And His Highness handed over the trophy to the captain of the team and to the team. As we speak right now, we're hosting a soccer tournament for West Asia, which includes teams from Emirates, Saudi, Iran, and so on. Because, like I said, it's an opportunity to really, we look at it as an opportunity to bringing people together, to breaking down barriers on a human-to-human level, on an individual level. And in relation to your point, we've always said everybody's welcome. Everybody's absolutely welcome to attend this tournament. We want people to come and, as I said, interact. And as far as it relates to, specifically, for example, the Israeli fans and national teams, absolutely, everybody's welcome. The only thing I'd like to highlight here is, we will work also diligently to ensure also that the Palestinians are able to attend, the tournament as well. In 2022.
Now, let me ask you, I mean, even the joint Korean team in the last Olympics, I mean, sports have helped to actually move forward diplomatic impasses that otherwise were quite intractable. Have you had constructive conversations thus far with some of Qatar's erstwhile adversaries to make the World Cup a blockade-free zone, to open airspace, to allow fans more easily to directly travel? I mean, have those conversations started yet? Do you feel optimistic about them?
I mean, look, in terms of the conversations in relation to this area, no, we haven't had specific conversations. But like I said, today, you can look at today when we have, countries from the blockading nations attending, as I said, clubs from blockading nations attending and playing. In the Gulf Cup last year, fans attended, and it's important to highlight, one very important factor from our side. Our borders are open. As I said, everybody's welcome. The restrictions are not from our side.
I mean, absolutely, yeah.
So we always believe in the same view. As I said, we strive to separate sports from politics because of the belief that we have in the transformational power the sports has. Look, in the region, there is no doubt that there's a huge passion and a huge anticipation, passionate anticipation, if you will, for this tournament, both from the point of view of harnessing its legacy and its opportunities that it has, and at the same time from participating, from actually being here and see. We're a football mad region, we're a football mad nation. So the fans, the people, are definitely very, very excited about attending this tournament. And, we're hopeful that by 2022, everybody who wants to attend can attend.
One of the countries in Europe that's actually done a surprisingly good job, one of the best jobs in responding to the pandemic, is one of the poorest. It's Greece. And in part, it feels like they've done a really good job because they've already been under crisis. They've experienced this horrible depression for 10 years now. And so their people are they're just ready. They're like, we can power through anything. Is there some of that, given the blockade and given the amount of hardship, a country which is, let's face it, per capita, one of the wealthiest in the world, not used to having your dairy cut off, not used to, having folks say they're going to build a moat around your country. Everyone has to work together. Did that make the pandemic, in a sense, easier for you guys to handle?
No doubts. I mean, again, as I said, when the blockade happened, as a testimony to the resilience and the resolvedness, we realized not only the importance, but we worked very hard, very diligently, and very speedily to become self-reliant. Understanding the need to, for self-reliance, understanding the need to focus on internal industries, on internal self-sufficiency, all these elements, and all the hardships that we experienced throughout the blockade helped us, without a doubt, in acting very, very quickly and very decisively in the face of the pandemic. Like I said, the economic stimulus package that came in helped out, very quickly in terms of shoring up the economy and ensuring that it doesn't fall into the deep hole that most, other countries unfortunately suffered. The steps that were taken when it came to the healthcare, and I have to say, I'm very, very proud of the healthcare system over here and the Ministry of Public Health and the steps that they've taken. While because of the very aggressive active contact tracing that we've implemented, our numbers were high. The amount of people that were administered into the ICU or even COVID-related deaths are low, globally. They're actually low numbers. And our medical healthcare system was not overwhelmed. The actions that we've taken in relation to workers has, also in ensuring that steps were taken to ensure their health and safety as well. Speaks volumes towards, specific immediate actions and reactions taken in ensuring the health and safety of everybody. But add to that as well, because of the self-sufficiency policies that we've implemented post-blockade, we weren't impacted extensively by COVID because we were able to deal with it. Like you said, I think hardships, if utilized correctly, end up becoming very good lessons learned, and a very good, the way we see it, every block in front of us, or every step, in front of us is actually a stepping stone. It's not an obstacle. It's a stepping stone onto something bigger and better.
So we don't only have a little bit more time, as people can probably see. I'm going to do a little macro question for you, because in addition to large-scale global events, again, there's a lot on your shoulders here to get this right. But there is a broader question about the country, which is, small open economies that serve as global hubs. Qatar, Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai. I mean, these are places that really flourished in an era of globalization, unfettered globalization. There's a lot of pushback against globalization right now. There's a lot of problems and challenges about supply chain. There's a lot of challenges about growing inequality. And that was before the pandemic. Do you think, as you look forward to the world after, God willing, a successful World Cup, is there a new normal for Qatar as a global hub? Does it look different having gone through all of this? And describe that in just 1 or 2 minutes.
Look, I think, as we recognize our role as a global citizen, right, within the global community. I mean, that's again, in the actions that we've taken when it came to the pandemic, repatriating 2 million people, shipping 250,000 tons of medical equipment. That, I think, is just one example of our commitment to the global community and in the belief of the global community. We believe in international law. We believe in the rule of law internationally, and so on. So there's no doubts that, we see that role as continuing, and we see that position as at least in my, when I look at it in terms of sporting events, continuing. I mean, we're looking to host, for example, in 2027, the Asian Football Confederation soccer tournament. In 2030, we're looking to host the Asian Games. In 2032, there's an intention to potentially host the Olympics. I mean, I think looking at hosting these events, it's always it speaks, I think, volumes about us. Seeing there's nevertheless, there is a need for the global community to kind of gravitate towards these events and utilize these opportunities more and more. And it speaks, I think, it's an example of a commitment to the global community and, supporting, if you will, initiatives and platforms, specifically sporting platforms for the global community.
So it's Hassan Al-Thawadi. I call him the Grand Poobah of the World Cup. That is his unofficial title. He has one of the most challenging and fascinating jobs in the world today. We're going to be seeing a lot from him in the future. Good to see you again. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, everyone.